Alrighty, people, we are back. It's Anotand versus Myriad. One matchup that people might not have expected too much, but one that I have seen quite a lot because Warchief Club, these guys played each other a lot. So, with that being said, let's dive into the game, shall we?
Wow, we are leaving no time, only just for introductions. Now, this is our last series of the day. Myriad playing as the color green, spawning in as the Ottomans, northern side of the map. His opponent for this best of three is Anotand, spawning in as the Japanese in the color blue. Now we're seeing a little bit of a difference in builds. We just saw Wham the last series that we had, going for gold, going for that fast castle build, all that kind of good stuff. Anotand going the opposite direction. He's not going for a fast castle. He actually just took a couple villagers to get gold, just to make sure he can age up on time. He gets 30 gold. And then he's going to put everybody on stones. So this is a little bit of a well, I shouldn't say a little bit. It's a much different build for Japanese. And it's really nice that we can see both of them highlighted here.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, right? Because you can do a couple of things with this opening. You can either go for a quick dynamo, or why do I keep on saying dynamo? A dynamo. You can go for its second town center. You can go for emplacements. You can do a couple of things with it, right? It's not as easy to figure out. But the Ottomans, when they go for stone pretty early, we do know what is going to happen then, and that is going to be military school opening. It's going to be a little bit hard to punish maybe the base of Anotand here, though. But it's something that is certainly doable. One thing...
Yeah, I think it's, to be honest, I think it's something that's really important when you're playing against the Ottomans. I think going for something like an increase in eco, a second town center, if he's going for Damio, whatever he chooses to do a little bit afterward, I think it's really important to do something to have some kind of economic advantage over Ottomans if the Ottomans choose to do 1 TC, because a lot of times their economic bonus doesn't necessarily come from how many villagers they have or how many TCs they have or trade or anything that you might necessarily think that is economic. It's military. It comes from their military schools. So if they have all of those pumping, that's their economic boost that they're getting because they're getting units for free.
Yeah, that's kind of... Again, that's kind of why you don't see Ottomans just don't go for 2 TC, because they already have that eco advantage. And that's what you use your stone for, right? But one thing that could be interesting that I did not think about just up until just now. What if you just go Shinobi against the Ottomans and just disable the military schools?
Now, I think that can have some kind of, that could have some kind of play to it. I don't know how effective it could be, just because of, you got to be thinking about where the military schools are. The first military school for Myriad is right next to his town center, so that might not be a good idea for him to do, just because the town center fire can really take down Shinobi very quickly. But if you're daft if you're daft enough, I should say, and adept enough at the micro, maybe you can pull it off. But no Coca. Here, we are a Coca-free stream, and we'll be going with the Cura, well, except for that other game a long time ago. And we'll be going with the Cura storehouse with 5 villagers building on it. And basically what you see from this build is something that Anotand is doing. So you have your villagers on the storehouse building your feudal age landmark, and at the same time, you take your villagers away from food. Make sure you have 4, just because you can get your constant villager production. And you get all of your stragglers. When you're done getting all of your stragglers, you have enough for another house to make sure you don't house yourself. And you have precisely enough specifically for a second town center. So I think that's the build that Anotand is going for.
Yeah, they can do this pretty safely, right? He already gathered all the stone, right? So there's not going to be any annoying spearmen that is going to be delaying, so you have to sit there and like pull out your shivs or anything. You're kind of just sitting there and being like, yep, I just need a wood, and then you can drop a second town center. One that has a beautiful spot here in the bottom that is very easily defendable.
Yeah, this is. It's a really cute little deer patch isn't it? It's right by it. I mean, this looks like a Roost player's wet dream, to be honest with you, because you can put a hunting cabin right next to it.
Hunting
Herd the
cabin right
deer
here.
over.
Oof.
Yeah, or a high trade house or something like that. Oh, what a time to be alive that would be. But that is a good safe spot. You know, a lot of times for the Japanese, when they do go for a second town center, they usually go by the gold, just because the gold is relatively the only thing that's not safe. For them, they use the Cura storehouse to try to get their farm economy, not necessarily worried about outside food eco. But we'll see what Anotand really tries to do. But he's going to go right on that gold instead of that deer pack. I did like the deer pack idea, but for a civilization that their food income is usually at home, they really try not to go out if they don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, of course, more food is not the best or the worst thing, but you know, why not? You have free farms. Yeah, back at home though, Myriad is not doing too much special. He's kind of just chilling. He's building up he's building a little bit of an army. He's not dropping a blacksmith. He's not going any fast castle shenanigans. That could be an option to do against the Japanese, right? Because Janissaries are pretty damn strong. However, it's going to be very hard to punish Anotand in the position he's holding in right now.
Yeah, I mean, with this second town center setup for Anotand, it's pretty standard. For Japanese, it's very, very difficult to really find a good raiding area or a good raiding potential. A second town center making your gold safe. You're getting the sheep and you're getting the farms around the Cura storehouse. So it means that, you know, you don't necessarily need to go out. You could also add farms around your starting town center if you wanted to, just to shore up that food economy. Or probably the farthest way you'll be able to go out before you get that, as the Anatolian Hills just spawns 8 sheep out of nowhere. It's a mutton miracle, ladies and gentlemen. You can go for the berries, which is probably the farthest thing out. And then by the time your berries are gone for the Japanese, you end up having enough wood to get your farm economy kind of going around the town center anyway. So it becomes a difficult area to attack, I must say.
It really does, right? And it's very difficult to do. I mean, doesn't stop you from trying though. Myriad is trying to look to see if he can find somewhere to punish. I don't know. I'm trying to solve I'm trying to solve the puzzle right now in my head, and it's like, okay. I just want to say as Ottomans, I think you just fast castle here.
Yeah, I mean, I will say for you, Cal, specifically, try not to hurt yourself. But for the, I'm kidding. But for the to go up, I mean, he's making a decent amount of units, and a lot of them are coming out free, right?
Yeah.
Because of the military school, so he's not really doing too much in that regard. This is your time. Not necessarily going to be able to predict what decision is the correct one, but this is your put up or shut up time against the Japanese. I think while they're trying to get their second town center, while they're trying to get their farm economy, it's probably when they're somewhat around the weakest. So do you want to put up? Do you want to make a lot of units? Do you want to try to ram them down? Or do you want to shut up and go for castle, try to get relics, solve that kind of stuff behind? Not necessarily knowing what the optimal play is, but I do know that Myriad, if he is going to make a decision, he's got to make one pretty much as soon as possible. And now Sapahi trying to get in a little bit of a raid, at least creating a little bit of idle time that Sapahi is going to go down. In the process, but we're looking at military count just because of those military schools, you're at a 10-4 for Myriad as an increase. So maybe those military schools might be able to help him out just a little bit. Whereas Anotand on the back end, starting to get his military production in place. You got a couple archer ranges, and we're actually seeing Yumi, something that we haven't seen in any Japanese game so far in any of the games that we've casted. Even though they're not necessarily the strongest unit at base value, they only do 4 damage. You can get some bannermen, you can get some upgrades, and they can pack a decent punch.
They really can, but at the same time they're very weak, right? You gotta remember, if a single Sipahi gets on like 4 or 5 of them, I don't think the Sipahi loses that fight. So it's going to be really, really hard to, you know, deal with them. Of course, you can outrange pretty much everything, right? They're longer range, they're really quick as well, right? 1.38 movement speed. So it's you can take an okay fight if you're able to get a large enough mass where your opponent now has to start running, and that is when the Yumiya Shiguru really shines, is when you're on the chase, basically. But at the same time, I'm a little bit on the because why not just stick with Onobugisha? I don't know. I might be biased there, but just go Onobugisha.
Well, you see, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing a little bit of both. I do think that for the Ottomans, one of the things that the Ottomans have notoriously struggled with, just because of the fact that they have Sipahi, they have archers, they have spearmen, and that's pretty much it. Sometimes they struggle with heavy infantry units. So things like samurai could be a good potential for him to use as well. So we'll have to see what he wants to do. He does add a couple spearmen that's going to help him out, just to make sure those Yumi don't get surrounded. But I think one of the first things that Anotand has to be thinking about, if he's going to continue into Yumi, one of the things you talked about, their power of being, you know, a faster unit. They're able to get out of harm's way differently than a longbowman. One of the things that they do have is the ability to mass them up. They're cheap. They're 30 food, 35 wood. So you're able to get a decent amount of them if you have enough wood to get some of the archery ranges. And really quickly before you jump in, I do want to say thank you to Killer Pigeon for not only
100%.
casting Chiefs of Warchief, but coming in for a raid. Guys, I'm 10-4 Tim, the nasally voice in your ear. Coming with me is Magical Cow. We are on the last series of the day. Best of 3, game number 1 between Myriad and Anotand. And as you can see from all of you lovely people in chat, Myriad is getting a little antsy here. Military count 34 to 19. Ram going to be coming in trying to take down something. But the thing of it is, if you're looking at Anotand's base, everything that he has is behind this starting town center. So this is proving to be very good defense for him right now.
Yeah, again, this ram is odd to me. Because you need at least 2-3 rams to be able to deal with the main town center. I get the idea that maybe he was potentially trying to sneak in on the secondary TC, but it's so hard to do, right? We talked about it early in the game. It's a very easily defendable position with how the natural woodland spawned. Yes, they're being depleted to a certain extent here, but it's very hard to get in on this town center, and it's also really hard because you don't want to take a fight where you need to start running, because when you start running, the Yumi Ashiguru is at their best place. But
oh, let me tell you, if you got some spearmen, some archers running away, them Yumi are gonna track you down, brother. And a good little raid by Myriad on the stone. This is probably the only resource that might be raidable for him. Try to get an outpost, couple villagers go down. I think that's the first couple worker kills of the game. And now Anotand is going to try to continue to bolster up his defenses in the back. He's got all of his archery ranges, all of his barracks. He's got his production in the back, which is going to be nice to help get some of his units in Myriad. He's keeping the pedal on, baby. He's adding the second ram. He's looking for a particular wall that those rams think is just delectable. That looks like right between those two wood lines. This is going to create a rather interesting choke point if that's where he decides to go. Those two rams are going to come in from the western side, try to take him down. Yumi and Samurai, a couple spearmen in there alike, trying to stop that Sipahi counter raid over there on the eastern side. And it looks like he'll be able to do that without any villagers. But now the wall has been broken. The dam has been broken. And here comes the water, ladies and gentlemen. All of these Ottoman forces are coming right in. Those Yumi Ashiguru are actually getting peppered down pretty easily. Samurai doing a good job taking down and keeping some of that archer. But look at that Sipahi raid on the eastern side, trying to get around, trying to get to those Yumi. Those Yumi don't have the most in the way of health, but just because of how many there are, the Sipahi can't get the full surround. The Sipahi try to get around, maybe take down a couple villagers. Didn't necessarily work. Those rams are alive for the Ottomans, but pretty much the only thing that's left are some archers, those samurai being able to be those tanky boys that they are. And like we said, Cal, a couple minutes ago, those archers are going to start to back up. And guess what is faster?
it is going to be those Yumi Ashiguru. We do have that ram, though. It's been able to take out a couple of houses and a production building, but other than that, not much more has come out of it, and we do see the fight now turning around. The main issue for Myriad was that he had no way of dealing with the mass samurai that was the front line of Anotand. He was able to tank up so much damage with them. Yes, the Sipahi was able to get in on the Yumi Ashiguru on the backside, but it was just not enough.
And that's the thing, Cal. In feudal age, for the Ottomans, what do you have? You know, like
well,
the
technically
the
you have
are probably the
Janissaries.
best.
Technically,
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. If you hit the Janissary button, for sure. But, you know, you don't. This is something that Ottomans have been struggled with since their inception in season 3. They have Sipahi, they have archers, they have spearmen. That is it. If you have something that has a heavy armored unit, like a Japanese samurai, they're gonna struggle, and that's exactly what happened. Anotand only lost 5 villagers in that whole offensive episode that we saw. Yeah, the walls were broken. We talked about, I don't know, there was an analogy about a dam in there. I don't know what I'm saying half the time. And what actually went on was Anotand was continuing to boom with his villagers. Economic count 70 to 50. Yumi Ashiguru and some of those villagers have to back up. He's trying to get to those forward berries, and an outpost might be a little bit too much. And those villagers got to back up. Samurai going to be able to do a good job trying to make a front line. Yumi trying not to get circled around by those Sipahi, and they will not be able to. There's just not enough Sipahi in this one. The reflective armor from those samurai actually coming in clutch against those Sipahi as well. Just that little bit of extra armor that might not necessarily appear on the page, but it appears on the battlefield. And here we go again. I'm going to say the same thing to you, Cal. What is going on? Those archers are backing up.
Those archers are backing up. There's Yumi Ashigura with the extra movement speed and extra range and extra damage. It's just going to be having some fun. It's just going to be running away. Myriad. The thing I would like him to do right now is adding an extra TC behind this, because he is on a proper timer right now against the second TC from the Japanese as well. Look at this. It's up to 34 Yumi Ashigura right now. And with a Bannerman in on the mix as well, it's going to be so brutal about having to deal with this. And
yeah, and that's kind of, and for the Yumi, that's kind of the makeup for their detriment. So if you click on one as of right now, because you have a Bannerman with you. So if you click on one, it's a 4 base damage, +1 for Steeled Arrow, +1 for the Bannerman, and now you're just getting them cheaper. So now that you have all of those tools, it does take a second for it to happen, but once you have those tools, they're going to be able to do a decent amount of damage, and we're seeing that. Those archers on the other side, the Meta's trying to help him with the sound of music, but I don't think there's enough bongos on that thing to be able to get those archers to do anything to those samurai, and we're seeing that happen time and time again. There's only 7 or 8 samurai here. 8 shows on the top of the queue that you can see. Now it's about 7, but look at this. They're not doing anything.
Do I have to say it again?
Yes,
he's running. He's taking the damn fights again and again and again. And I get it. You're playing the Ottomans. You're playing against the Japanese. You're supposed to have the tempo advantage in terms of military, but he doesn't have the front line. He needs to be massing Sipahi. He practically can stop, to be honest, to make archers. He just needs Sipahi to be able to tank up the damage from the Yumi Ashiguru, and Sipahi to go on the backside and take care of them. Because if he's able to do that, then the archers will actually start to matter and properly do some damage. But now we're going to have a big problem, because Anotand just went up with the floating gate right away. And what will he be doing with it? Probably, to be honest, slap it right into a stable and get those mounted samurai out as quick AF. And when that happens, I don't see how Myriad has a good idea. He is going up the castle himself. He is adding that second town center that we were talking about, which I would have liked to see pretty much 5 minutes ago at this point. But now what the hell? Why is the... Okay, this is like the furthest possible away you could have put the MIA, but sure.
See, but this is the other issue with...
Yeah, okay.
This is the other issue with the Ottomans and the kind of play against this Japanese. And to be honest, I mean... It kind of could just be any 2 civs at this point. One civ is an aggressive civ. They try to do some damage to the other one who's trying to boom and get a little greedy. And if they fail, this is what happens. There's an economic count, 86 to 60. Anotand obviously has a glowing lead. There's a military count that's obviously higher for Anotand, 55 to 38. And it's going to stay that way because one has an economic advantage that the other does not. And as long as Anotand doesn't do any kind of overextending, he will be just fine. Those Yumi Ashiguru are now of the veteran status, so they do a little bit more than 4. They're not shooting marshmallows anymore. I think they're more like shooting BBs. They got about 6 damage. And +3 with, you have the Bannerman, you have the Steeled Arrow, you have the second upgrade, which is what we see on Anotand. You can see that on the top right of your screen. So now, Anotand's just going to sit by the town center.
Buildings, I'm sorry.
I mean, he can sit by the town center. He sits by the production. He can do pretty much anything. And he has the ability, because of his economy, he has the ability to continuously produce these units.
He's just able to do so, right? He's just going to be able to sit and chill and sit back and doing what we saw in the last series as well with Wham on the Japanese, just spreading out units, just being as annoying as possible. These villager losses is heavy as well, just because of the fact that his second TC has come online now, but it's not been producing for long enough that it actually matters. And equalize.
And this is such an issue. This is such an issue for Myriad. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but Myriad pulled his whole army up north, try to get to that gold. I know this is just a small thing. You might be thinking, yeah, well, his villagers are going down. You know, that's very important. Yes, but it doesn't mean. But it means they're not home. And when they're not home like this, the meta goes down. He's not going to be playing in the Key of G anymore. On the western side, where that second town center is, he's delayed this entire wood line. There's been samurai over there killing villagers. The Yumi were able to track down this big archer mass. He still only has archers and only about 2 crossbowmen. He still, at this point in the game, has nothing for these samurai. So this archer mass is going to be left to slaughter.
Yeah, and he's not making knights either. Some of them are in queue, but they're not out on the field yet. He needs something to deal with the samurai, which is the real problem here. He can always deal with the Yumi Ashiguro, but he is not going to be able to do so. He taps out, and it is game number 1 going to Anotand.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, it was an impressive hold by Anotand. He was able to shell up. You know, he was able to not let a lot of his workers go down in the offensive by Myriad. Overall, I mean, it was 1 aggressive civ, 1 passive civ, civ held. Next game.
GG, go next.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But now that we are actually on camera, welcome everybody from Killer Pigeon's raid. Thanks for the raid, Killer Pigeon. I'm but a humble guest on Rising Empires, but I implore you to follow the Rising Empires and join their Discord, where you might be able to play in one of these tournaments while we're waiting for game number 2 to be generated. Do you want to be a Chiefs of Warchief? I bet you do, buddy. Do you want to be a part of Low Elo Legends and play in tournament and be on the big screen?
I do.
Hell yeah.
I do.
Hell yeah. So get in here. Go into Rising Empires.
Well,
join some tournaments. You're going to love the way you look. I guarantee it.
I mean, I know you do because you look damn good. I'm talking to everyone in Twitch chat. So yeah, right, to the people who came from KP stream, and you know, I sit in, you know, either a backseat in chat or I actually manage to convince KP to cast with me sometimes. Hi, this is what I look like. But yeah, we have game number 2 onto Gorge. It is Delhi versus Mali, and when you hear of Anotand, what is the first civilization that comes to mind for you?
Are you pigeonholing me into Delhi?
Yes, very much so.
Great. I'm gonna go with Delhi, guys. Final answer.
Yes, bingo.
Fucking nailed it.
Oh.
So, and we go into game 2 with Anotand being the Delhi and the Myriad being the Malians. We saw this matchup a little bit before. We did see that SAS was the Delhi, tried to get ultra aggressive against the Malians in Feudal Age, which is, you know, on paper, that sounds like the right thing to do. Right? Wham was able to hold, get to Castle Age, get to that Mali extravaganza, bonanza, synonyms with all of those cows, right? So now we're going to see if Anotand can do a little bit better with the Delhi Sultanate, but Myriad playing as Malian, spawning in as the color red on the western side of this gorge. Anotand playing as the color blue, spawning in as the Delhi Sultanate in this game number 2. Remember, this is best of 3. This is match point for Anotand. So Myriad, he's got his back against the wall. He's got to really get this game and tie it up and force a game 3. And we'll see if he has a similar success like we saw Wham go against the SAS before in a very similar matchup.
Before we get properly into the game, I do want to give a quick shout out Mac Attractor subscribing with the Prime, as well as Daddy Pogschnecht gifting the 5 gifted. Super close to a hype train. Would be cool if we can get that. A reminder as well to everyone at home, our tournaments are completely crowdfunded. 10 for Tim usually gets paid for cost, but best case right now, I'll buy him a beer if I ever come to the US or something. That's pretty much best case at this point. We're here.
I casted for Rising Empires, and all I got was a stupid T-shirt.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, if you are able to drop a couple of subs, it will go straight to the players. We are not taking a single penny of it. Yes, I was glad we did get a T-shirt. Yeah, King Smurf. If we do get a hype train, we do throw. We're going to throw a LAN party. Yeah, that's definitely how that works. But yeah, we are into the game. It is game number 2, match point for Anotand on his pretty much old signature civ. I remember casting him way back in Warchief, the early Warchief club days. And I just remember the sheer aggression that Anotand put out as the Delhi. He was such a Chad, he didn't even wall up the sacred sites.
And, I'll tell you what, man, Delhi's got the tools for it. I mean, you see a lot of people talk about Delhi. Oh, it's a boring civ. It's so linear. This is what you do. You get the sacred sites and all that kind of jazz. But until you play the Delhi, actually execute it. And you're going to realize how much fun this actually is for the Delhi. Because you have 3 sacred sites, as you can see on the minimap. Obviously, one is in the crevasse of the gorge, or the gorge, if you will. Then other ones on the other sides of it. It just means that this game has multiple points of interest that you might not necessarily be thinking about if you were playing a civ that wasn't Delhi. I mean, obviously, sacred sites are good, to force your opponent out of a turtle. It counts as a win condition and all that, and that's all well and good. But for the Delhi, that's your economic bonus, those landmarks. So there's some counterability. You try to make your own units, you try to combat them. And, it just makes for a really, really fun game where there's a lot of action throughout. And Anotand, I think, realizes that there's going to be a tidbit of action throughout, and is going to go with the Tower of Victory for a landmark. Really like this choice against the Malians. I think you need all the firepower that you can possibly get if you're trying to get some map control and feudal age against them.
Oh yeah, you're going to need it later on. We'll have to see though. Again, with we saw this matchup earlier today. That Ghazi didn't work out quite as well, but that was maybe a little bit to the greed as well. It did look like SAS had the upper hand in that game, but didn't work out in the end. Tower of Victory is coming up as well. Gorge, a little bit of a different map. It's super easily wallable, at least in the middle, which does cut off a huge rotation point for Anotand. For Myriad. So will be interesting to see. As well as Malian Gorge, I feel like is a very weird one. I feel like it should be good because of the fact that you have these gold veins that always spawn like in a corner-ish. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, yeah, but you don't have the space for a cow boom realistically, which is a huge part. We have seen the resurgence a little bit of Farimba though. Got any thoughts on that?
I'll be honest with you. Usually when I hear Malians or think about Malians or play against Malians, I think about not playing against them. So just because of how frustrating they are of a civilization to play against. I have seen some Farimba in the time. I don't necessarily can give you the expert opinion on whether it is the choice in this particular matter, but we're talking about Gorge, the map itself for the Malians. You talked about those pit mines, but one of the things that I do like about the Malians is that they're wood safe over here. You have that backline wood right next to your town center, and it means that if you do put your cattle ranch maybe a little bit off to the side, if he does choose to do that, you have the ability to have safe wood, get all your cattle ranches and all that kind of stuff, and it's close enough to your town center where you have a little bit of defensibility. And that's one of the really frustrating things about Malians. They're getting their economy from the Mansa Quarry. They're getting it from their first pit mine that's usually safe. They're getting it from their cattle ranches, which is from the starting town center. So it's incredibly difficult to try to take down their economy. But Anotand is going to be trying to do his darndest in order to. So he does have 2 scholars in there in that Moss. So the Sanctity is going to be going up pretty soon. Does have a couple blacksmiths, going to be trying to get those technologies, obviously very important. But also what's very important for the Delhi Sultanate is whatever their first production building is. And it's really important because you got to scout what the other player is going to be doing. Myriad, the first thing he did was put down a barracks. I think Anotand knew that. So the one thing that he does, he puts an archery range out first because obviously you're going to need archers for it. And then things kind of develop after that.
Yeah, so this is a weird one to me. You talked about how hard it is to punish the Mali early on, right? But usually would probably see a couple of Ghazi raiders to put on some form of pressure, and then if you want to be a little bit greedy, you can drop that second blacksmith. But we went double blacksmith into archer range into Ghazi. So yeah, we're getting upgrades, baby. However, we do have those scholars moving out now. We do have a little bit of extra time here. We have about 30 seconds till Sanctity is through. Going to be seeing where those scholars are heading. I would expect the middle and the southern side, considering that's where the action is already happening.
Yeah, and this is kind of, I mean, at this point in the game, now that we just hit 7 minutes for the Delhi Sultanate, this is the time when things turn on, right? They have their blacksmith. They're starting to get some of their technologies. They can pump out a lot of units with the efficient production that comes in Dark Age, right? So basically at this point they try to get some map control, get those sacred sites, and what's really, really important, especially in Gorge, as you hear those gongs heard around the world, those 2 sacred sites getting capped at just about the same time, about 7 minutes 20 seconds. Awesome timing from Anotand. This is the point where you get those sacred sites, you end up capping them. That's your economic advantage as the Delhi. So you have those 2. You can use it either a means to an end to get up to Castle Age, start getting Castle Age units, or you can use it for continued feudal production. We saw Sass use it for continued feudal production. A little bit later, he kind of delayed going up to Castle. Let's see what Anotand decides to do, because as of right now, he's getting a decent amount of passive gold per minute with these sacred sites.
Yeah, and this is what I was talking about, right? A little bit earlier. It is like, Anotand is just like, yeah, I don't need walls. He's just not even going to bother walling the middle. Like, okay, yeah, if you take the middle sacred site, then feel free to take the sacred site. I'm not going to stop you, but I'm damn well going to punish you for it. We do have a little bit of fight here. Nice micro coming in as well here, though, from both players. Javelin throwers getting on the archers. Ghazi's going on the javelin throwers, but also going on the horsemen. So it's just like a little back and forth here. However, we do have that. Wait, that scholar actually lived. Damn. Scholar.
Yeah, he almost exsanguinated on the battlefield, but he is there at 6 HP trying to get that sacred site down in the south, and I think he will be able to. And I think this is such a different matchup because this is where 2 power spikes happen at different times. You know, for the Delhi, this power spike in feudal, what Anotand is going for, comes in with a lot of units, right? For Myriad, he's got a second pit mine, and it's a large stone, or large gold, excuse me. So he will get a decent amount of gold per minute passively. While back home, he's starting to try to get his food economy underway. You know, so he's not necessarily at the power spike. Let's just say he ain't even peaked yet, brother. While Anotand, he's currently peaking. And we're going to see if he can get enough military forces to try to wipe out the Malian map control that we're seeing on the southern sacred site. Because if he can have all 3, that would be a really good idea. Now, those Ghazi Raiders just took a nice little brace from those Donzos. I really love Myriad's micro right now. Just making sure those Donzos are keeping those javelin throwers safe. But Anotand's starting to make him back up a little bit. I don't think there might have been enough Donzos. There's only about 3 or 4 of them to about 5 or 6 Ghazi Raiders right now. Reinforcements coming in on the western side. Might be able to try to take down some of those Donzos as well, but not necessarily about wiping out the army, because Anotand didn't wipe everything out, but he definitely shored up some control on the southern part of this map.
Damn well, and it's yeah, that's a very dead pit mine in my eyes. Not enough done so, as you pointed out, that it was able to do so. And also, while that micro was happening behind it, the javelin throwers was not able to go on the archers, which was the crucial part and why you were even microing to begin with in the first place. Now, because of this as well, behind all of this, we have a single Donzo that's going to be walking up to the sacred site, going to be at least capturing it, but at the same time, you're going to be losing a pit mine, which, in my opinion, sacred site for a pit mine, I would happily take that trade as the Delhi. But now we have the fights going to be ensuing once again. We have the micro coming in here, javelin throwers onto the archers in the back, doing a good job here. However, Donzos, not enough Donzos. Now the Donzos are dead, and now the Ghazis have free reign effectively onto these javelin throwers.
Yeah, and I think we just showed what the power of the Tower of Victory does. You know, you're able to kite, you're able to get those Donzos taken care of. There's not a single Donzo on the battlefield. One just popped out of barracks, as you can see, but Ghazi Raider is going to be able to sit under that town center, take down a lot of jab throwers. You need about 5-6 jab throwers to one tap an archer. He does not have that mass anymore. Military count 34-2. This is a death sentence for Myriad. All of these Malian villagers have to run home, and they were trying to get berries in the first place, which wasn't a good food economy. This is terrible for Myriad.
You know the worst part? At some point he pressed the all army hotkey and the Donso that was going on to the sacred site never got it.
That's also an issue. I would say that's also an issue.
So, Myriad right now is down a pit mine, a big pit mine. A lot of investment on the pit mine as well is going down the drain as well. Balls are going up onto the sacred site, and Myriad is no army to defend himself. It's just a matter of time before Anotand chooses to pull the trigger, and at that point, it's just game over for Myriad. He can try to hold the Mali economy is strong. He's gotten a couple of cows here at least. At least they're staying strong and alive. I just don't see it being enough.
See, what I really love too about Anotand's feudal gameplay is obviously you got the sacred sites, it's good as Delhi. You're getting the pocket resources in Gorge, which is obviously good. But what I always say is what turns a good Delhi player into a great Delhi player is making the amount of units necessary to get map control and then stopping. As you can see, he's only getting a couple archers. He's not getting any more Ghazi Raiders. Myriad's continuing to try to pump military as fast as possible, but look at Anotand's macro right now. He's going to be going up to Castle Age to get those sick Castle Age units from the Delhi Sultanate. Men-at-Arms, all of those armored units that Myriad has to do a complete change in. He might have to do something, like the only thing that Malians can really do against those armored units is Musafati warriors, and they're not especially the strongest thing in the world either. So Anotand, he did his economic damage. He took out that second pit mine, and now he's just going to shore up and hit castle.
Yeah, he's playing it smart. He's playing it tactical, right? It's very easy to see that, okay, I've had the army, advantage for quite a while now, and even when he was taking a fight, he realized how quickly and easily he was winning in that fight too. But he's not going to be he's pushed the advantage far enough to a point where, okay, I will try to win another way. He will be playing safe, he will be playing methodical, but it also is a little bit greedy at the same time, because he's going up with a compounded defender. He can kind of just chill back and let the Mali cow boom, because he's already done enough damage. He has 3 sacred site, and it's just, he doesn't care about the cow boom.
No, I mean, he did enough economic damage. Like you said, Sacred Victory is going to be about 5.5 minutes. Anotand just hit Castle Age, where the Grand Fulani Corral button did get hit. Now that the cow boom has officially been booming. Economic count for both sides, 46-41 in favor of Anotand, but it's all about that military count. I mean, it's easy to say looking in because we have God vision. Oh, well, Anotand can just run over the Malians right now and just steamroll them. But obviously, Anotand doesn't have that information. He's just making sure that he's thinking about it in his head. Okay, what's a way to lose this game? Usually when you're at such a high advantage in games, you're thinking about, how do I not lose? You just want to make sure your opponent doesn't have an opportunity to come back. And him walling up, just making sure his pocket ecos are protected, starting to continue to make units, just keep going about his business. It's pretty much a good way to not lose.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of how Myriad gets out of this one. It's not looking too hot in my head. Castle Age is hit, however, so there will be an opportunity to at least get some upgrades. However, I don't think the upgrades matter realistically.
Sacred Site Victory now down 3 minutes, 55 seconds. Myriad has got to start producing some units if he's looking to try to take down one of these sacred sites now. Anotand, he is adding some armored units. You see some lancers in there. You see some men-at-arms as well. He's getting village fortresses, which might not necessarily, pay off in time, depending on the length of this game. But he's also, what's one of the more important things is he's getting stone. And for the Delhi, stone is one of those things that's obviously very important, because not only are you able to do things like stone walls, but you're able to spam keeps all over the place, because For Compounded Defender, your keeps now cost 720 stone instead of the usual 900, I believe it is. So some sofas trying to get in, but that's one lousy piece of furniture. Ends up going down and only one left. Looks like he's trying to get around to try to find some kind of Sacred Site decap. The southern one is the closest one to Myriad's base. So it seems to be the one that he is targeting. But look at this military count now. 73 to 20. What is he going to do about it?
It's like, Anotand is probably like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna... it's like, oh, that's a cute little blob. It's probably like part of the army that he like he just selected and right-clicked on the wall. No, that's Myriad's entire army. That's his entire army.
No, that's all of it. Yeah, that's all of it.
That's literally all of it. And you take this engagement as much as we'd like, but I don't see this going too well for anybody. But Anotand is here. He's going up with a keep as well. Knows that this is where he's most likely to be attacked as well. Double layered on the walls too here. Just being an absolute nuisance.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice for those Malians. Those sofas have imported armor. I mean, you can import it from Alpha Centauri. I don't care. Like, it's just for how many units Anotand has. Archers, crossbowmen. I don't. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no. But huge props again to Myriad though. He's made it far in the tournament playing against Anotand, one of the best players in the world, to be honest. That's objectively true, and he's holding out. He's not willing to tap out just yet. Knows that this is make or break for him.
Yeah, and I think for the Anotand right now, as far as military count, he knows that the Southern Sacred Site is the most important. That's probably the one that's going to get capped. Myriad's economy, as you can see from his passive economy, yeah, it's starting to come online. You know, the cows are booming. He's got, you know, some pit mines over there on the western side, but it might be a little too late. That Sacred Site timer has continued to tick, tick, tick down. And Myriad's starting to catch up proportionally when it comes to military count. You know, he was at about, you know, maybe 3 times the differential. Now he's only about half. So that's been helping him out a little bit just because of the economy that he has. And look at that. We're looking to see a little bit of a switch as that ding, ding, ding. We're at 1 minute of the Sacred Victory. Sacred Victories are my favorite to cast just because of how climactic they can be. That wall, that first wall, and the second layer of that onion ends up getting pieced down. Myriad's got to figure out where he's got to go to try to decap one of these Sacred Sites.
I mean, he's going to try to be doing the one on the north side here. He's not going to be finding too much success in that one. Poison arrows have come through. Walls are going up as well. More units just running back and forth here. Wall's going to be slowly but surely burnt down. Keep in the middle has come up. Keep on the north side still looking to be placed.
This is my favorite too.
Yeah, it's like
Myriad picks a Sacred Site, so he picks the top one. All of Anotand's military is down on the south side, so they're all looking at each other like, "Oh shit, we gotta get up there." So he sent all the military up there, all 100 of them. The decap actually starts at about 8 seconds, and now this is the climax. This is the fight that we've been waiting for so long, and these sofas trying to get around the spearmen don't quite get there. The Malian archers start to get those poison arrows, trying to take down those men-at-arms. Sacred Victory, 5 seconds. Looks like that sofa's up there. If that sofa ends up going down, that Sacred Victory might start ticking.
Tick, tick.
Looks like that one's down. That's 4, that's 3, that's 2. We're 1 second. It's the ball game.
And that is going to be it for Myriad. Anotand makes it looks easy with the Delhi here, one of his favorite and signature civilizations, but Myriad did not stand a chance. And that's going to be a little bit of a sad ending. I mean, Myriad held out to the end, but did not look too hot at pretty much any point in that game, to be honest. But he held strong.
Those Sacred Site victories, they just make me feel some type of way.